Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where in Latin, Jones begins with an I. I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Gerald Christopher St. Margaret of Antioch. She was beautiful, apparently, and assists with escapes from devils.
Oh.
So, yeah.
It's handy.
That's a tough
quite a
one.
combination.
Because then you're... Yeah, it is, exactly. And so imagine now, you're getting away from devils and you're aided by a beautiful person, and I don't know, you'd almost find yourself in a whole new devil quandary right there.
Yeah.
Especially if they're a saint. You're going to fall in love with the saint now.
I think we're talking about the sports team, the Devils.
The devil, yeah. The devils. Well, one interesting tidbit is she was beheaded after being swallowed by a dragon.
Oh, really?
I
Wait,
don't know how that worked.
In the act of being swallowed by a dragon? Or she was punished for being swallowed by a dragon by having her head cut off?
I think she was beheaded after being swallowed by a dragon. I don't know.
After being
did the
excreted?
Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, what were you doing in that dragon? You're in trouble.
I didn't know
You
dragon
hussy.
sphincters were.
Yeah.
Dragon sphincters like the first booby trap.
She's a witch.
Yeah. You're too hot to be dealt with. You're a witch and your head's coming off.
And
Oh,
remember, the
God. But
first draft of Last Crusade had Indy falling in love with a nun, and
Oh, that's right.
she left
Oh
the
my
order
God.
for him.
Really?
Yeah, Chantal.
That's right.
Well,
that was.
They were going to
that's
climb
right.
up the stairs
Chantal
into
was
heaven.
Wow, that would have been really interesting.
You know, George was really handling that breakup from Linda Ronstadt in weird ways.
Porter?
Porter.
Thank you. And today we're joined once again by the man who knows everybody and also us, Ken Plume. Welcome back.
Well, I like how you're an addition at the end of that now.
Yeah, you graduated.
Very subtle slip in that revision in there.
Famous people like us. No biggie.
Watch your podcast rocket.
I guarantee I am wiping all of this from memory as soon as it's done.
There you go.
I am happy to be back. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And today we're going to be talking about minute 107. Minute 107 begins with Henry sitting bolt upright and apparently experiencing an E.T. Eliot connection with his son. And it ends with Indy playing some hopscotch with the letter A. And speaking of the hopscotch board, we start looking at these tiles with all the letters on them. And like I mentioned last minute, if you look at the J, it looks like it's been freshly repaired and has some fresh caulk all around it. Because I think someone's been in here recently. Just someone tried to get through here maybe a week or two ago.
No, what are the tiles made out of? Are they like
Like clay?
It's like,
Nice
or is it
terracotta.
like Home Depot concrete? Just stuff that just withers when you touch it.
Little like garden pavers. From
Is it fake stone, or is there something like it's a real stone, but there's something
Well, it
that
crumbles.
pulverizes the stone?
I mean, it doesn't, like, if it was a solid paver, one would expect that it would just fall in a solid piece when you dislodged it.
Yeah,
It, like, crumbles
yeah.
under
Right.
his weight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so
like
is it
mud.
is it
Maybe it's just like
is it
mud.
Oh,
like
maybe.
stone that something activates it, like a
Faith.
shock? Faith, yeah, like faith or hate, a vengeful god, like
Well, okay, wait a minute. Am I being dumb? I've
Yes.
always... Okay, never mind.
I can't wait because I have so many issues with this booby trap, but keep going.
Okay. I have always thought, and I've just since you guys started talking, I was like, oh, wait, am I dead wrong? When they show Indy's, lower half sticking through the floor and you see underneath that the big cavern, there are all these giant pillars
Okay.
sticking up and connecting
So-
with the thing.
so we're getting
Are
into it.
those the letters that you're supposed to step on?
We're getting into this.
And they're just
then,
supported.
Okay?
Okay. Yeah, please do.
So, speaking to that moment, this has always been the thing I loathed in a weird pedantic manner about this scene. Because what you're referencing is that when Indy makes the incorrect decision for how Jehovah is spelled, and going for the J instead of the I, he crashes through the floor on the massive, I guess, Indy-sized J that he steps on. And falls through. And then what we see is the underside, and he's matted in, is a matte painting of the underside of this trap. And you have various, basically look like tree trunk, log size, supporting up one would assume is the letters you're supposed to stand on. Whereas all the ones you're going to fall through are going to be unsupported and just open to the air because you fall through them. However, Indy falls through halfway. If you look at that matte painting underside, he's nowhere near any of the logs. He's pulling himself up with a whole bunch of letters that should be crumbling as well from under his weight.
Oh, that's why I think it must be like dried mud that they didn't fire. Like it's just something brittle that would collapse.
And this is a matte painting. This could be fixed. No one looked at this.
That's true.
And
no, there's a reason.
Throw a couple more logs up.
There's a reason this is this looks like this. This was a last minute addition. There's a deleted scene here. They didn't film it like this. Originally, Indy steps on the letters, and instead of like falling through in this giant chasm, he steps on the letters, and it's a nest of tarantulas. And as soon as he steps down, these tarantulas start scurrying up all over his body. And Spielberg just couldn't get it to look so that it was scary. And I also think it doesn't work because in Raiders, he was not scared of tarantulas at all and just very nonchalantly wiped them off of Satipo.
And tarantulas aren't poisonous.
Yeah. Yeah, it was this kind of a silly...
Spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
they're creepy.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but that's why they ended up doing this matte painting at the last minute, and they tried to hide it, by... It's kind of dark, and you can't see it very well, and it just goes by so quickly.
I appreciate your attempt to forgive them on this, but it's a painting that they could have painted a couple more blobs of black logs in there. Just around where he's pulling himself up.
Yeah.
That's pretty. But that's Pete's middle name is attempt to forgive them. That's kind of. No,
I mean, the easiest thing to fix is a matte painting at the end.
I'm looking at it now, and maybe it's an issue of perspective, but to me, it looks like Indy's not hanging from the ceiling; he's hanging from a wall. If that makes sense.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I understand there's a perspective thing, but
no, you can see the outlines of letters even behind him as well. Even though the J, he's like in the middle of the floor, hanging through.
Yeah,
which makes me think if this was a deleted scene, maybe he didn't pull himself up. This is the matte painting from when he fell down all the way into the pit of the tarantulas. Rather than pull himself up, which would make sense that he's just going to fall straight through.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's weird because the tiles around this are all... That would mean that you could spell a word with every other one of these letters. That would be okay. It's just one letter you can't use to spell.
Yeah, if you're going to be able to pull yourself up.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, so I have a question about this second challenge here. Is this a reference to the religious poem Footprints?
Oh, no.
And actually, look, I looked that poem up, and it may come as a surprise.
What, in your great-grandmother's bathroom?
Not in my great... Yeah, exactly. I looked at a little bit of the history of Footprints, and it may come as a surprise that, when there was only one set of footprints, that was the lawyer carrying you. Because apparently there's been some lawsuits about who was the author of that.
Oh my God.
And it's quite fascinating. Yeah, like
wasn't it Saint Treacle of Damascus?
Hallmark. Yeah.
Yeah. Saint Syrup Butt.
Of the Holy Cross Stitch.
Saint of great grandmother. The great grandmother, like little purloined soap, little rosemary soap petals. No, it was actually fascinating. There's a huge, long history of this, and at least 12 people have claimed to have written it.
Wow.
And it's a real mess
You would
because
think
for
it's
such a
more along the lines of, no, you wrote it. No, I didn't write it. You wrote it.
Put that on me.
How dare you?
yeah, exactly. Not at all.
It's like a hot
You
potato.
gotta love the lawsuits.
Music's up. You wrote it.
Yeah.
So-
Marcus actually says, "No, Henry, try not to talk." And I'm kind of going like, "Come on, Marcus, what are you doing? Like, we actually need Henry to talk."
Do we? Because
Because
he doesn't. I mean, Indy can't hear him.
Yeah,
He's-
but
he's-
no. But listen, if he's, Indy almost died because Marcus isn't saying this loud enough. And yes, somebody could have screamed like,
Yeah.
Did you even
"Jehovah
notice
begins with an
that?
I."
They're in a stone chamber. The acoustics should be great
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not
seem to
that
be
far
later.
down the way.
No,
Right.
not at all.
But also, this doesn't make sense. And it seems like Henry, like I was saying at the beginning, and Indy are linked like E.T. and Elliot, because somehow Henry knows everything that Indy's seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything
Well,
that
he knows
Indy
the
sees.
order of the. He knows the order of the traps, I guess. So he would
Actually,
know that.
There's nothing in the diary about, at least that we've ever seen, about the tiles. Or like, if he already knew that this was the solution.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
It seems like he would have just said, "Hey, when we get to this one, make sure you don't step on the J." Like, how does he
Right,
know
right,
there's a
right.
J? How does he know that?
That's a
it
good
just it's a
point.
weird
Well, you
thing
know
that he
what?
knows
Yeah,
these things.
there's a language joke coming up.
Yeah.
It's a language. No, but you know what's really weird? If you look at like second, like 11, 12, 13, and it's just sort of Henry cupped in Sala's hands. And God, I just keep looking at Sala's cuffs. His beautiful cuffs.
Oh yeah.
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 He's got that.
But
bracelet,
anyway,
too.
if
Pull that off.
if you
Wow.
if you look
I
at
never thought
Henry,
you'd have a moment with cuffs.
there's this like this serenity, this sort of spiritual, almost like he sees a bright light at the end of the tunnel. Like they film it like that.
Mhm.
Right here, and it is supposed to be sort of like, oh hey, yo, there's something else going on here between Indy and Henry. Like
Yeah.
if you watch it, you're like, oh no, he's channeling Yahweh or some
Yeah, he is
spiritual
something.
connection
Yeah.
here.
And
Yeah,
somehow
and
Indy's
you-
connected into this too.
And
And
Sala
like, if
is his
you look-
medium? Is he amplifying it with his mighty Sala voice? He says it starts
Yeah.
with an I!
Well, he should be.
Yeah, if anyone's
It's
going to
really
bellow
weird
to
that-
Indy, they got Sala
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, that's true. And then you see Indy coming up out of the hole, and I think this is there are two interesting things here. One, you can see Elsa and Donovan hiding behind the blades, watching him.
That's
For the
super
first time.
weird. I never noticed that.
Yeah, I
before.
didn't either. And
That's
then the
almost a
second thing
scarecrow.
that's weird is you can see Indy very quickly brushing off his leg, and I think that's left in from the tarantula scene. Like he's got bugs, like he's got spiders crawling up him.
Oh wow.
Oh really?
Like he very
Oh,
quickly,
weird.
like frantically brushes something off of his leg.
Oh, that's
like second
weird.
40.
I always took that as like, just simple dusting himself off from
Right,
falling
but the
through
way he
stone
does it
floor.
frantically, it makes it seem like there's a spider in his leg or something.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I do
Oh,
have to
I
say,
mean,
one of my favorite
yeah.
parts of the entire movie is also it's a little goofy, but I love it. Just says Jay and like stepping through the
It's like the
thing.
Homer
He's
Simpson
like-
way of Jay.
He's so pleased with himself. He's, oh, this will be fun. I can just whoa. I actually love that.
Wow.
And
Jay?
then reprimands himself afterwards. Oh, it starts
Yeah.
with an I.
Yeah, it's satisfying. It's fun when he's mad at
Idiot
himself.
with an eye.
Yeah.
Why are we using the Latin alphabet here? The New Testament was written in Greek.
Yeah, although by the Crusades, you didn't want to be reading it in Greek because that associated you with the Byzantines. And since the knight was from Western Christendom, he probably
Yeah,
would
Jer.
have. He would have.
Yeah, case
This would
closed.
have
Take
been
your
like a-
objection and run.
Yeah.
But I'm
Get your head
wondering,
out of your
so
ass,
when,
Jerry.
This
So
would. I
is
mean,
this-
being a Byzantine Christian was next to being a Muslim in his eyes. Like that was.
So how long? So does that show us when these were written? I mean, these booby traps.
Yeah,
were
they would have had.
activated
It seems like they would have, if they knew that there was a letter J, and it
Right.
started with an I in Latin. It means that they were made after the Crusades. I think, like he made these.
I mean, if we're
Right,
taking
okay.
this temple that it's in
Uh-huh.
at face value, literally rock face value,
Uh-huh.
it would have taken some time to carve out Should be just a hole in the wall secret.
Yeah.
It's a rather elaborate structure for something that people are not supposed to stumble upon. Was this like an extreme challenge that they were opening the doors to? Like, come on, try and win the Grail.
I just think it was the guy
Test
was
your
bored.
faith.
Like at some point he made a little hole that someone would fall in, and he just 100 years go by, and it's like, I'll make it a little deeper, and then another 100 years,
Yeah.
I'll go a little deeper, and then next thing you know,
a little more
it's like-
fun.
yeah, it's this
So
giant.
these are hobby
amphitheater.
traps.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I want to know, is it like does
Always tinkering.
The entrance, is the entrance to hell through a J? Because is that just what lies beneath that?
Oh, spiders.
Spiders. And
No, it's just like I look. Is it just but it's like you
gonna
might
hurt.
fall, you might bust your ankle, but then you just land on hay or rocks, and you maybe climb up or something.
Well, I mean,
Or does
that's for
that
liability
that entire
issues.
room?
Yeah,
don't get another
that's a good
turn.
question. Like, it doesn't go all the way.
Well,
to
we
hell.
don't know
Like, is
how
this,
far it
Yeah.
goes down
Yeah.
because with Elsa's eventual fate, when we don't know how deep these things go, because we certainly don't hear anything beyond a long scream when she goes.
Yeah.
So there might be that same level of drop to a bottom
Yeah.
in these.
She might still be
caverns.
screaming.
Or she might have fallen 5 feet and went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
She could
Yeah.
crawl out afterwards with Boba Fett.
Yeah, she's just waiting for everybody to leave.
You still there? Toss me a rope.
No, I think she's just
I
waiting.
found the
and then
Grail.
she'll grab the Grail and she'll be like, "Hey, I got this."
Yoinks.
She likes older men. She'll just go back and hang out with the knight.
Oh.
Aw. Check out his earlobes.
He's napping.
What would have happened if Indy had just bullwhipped across the alphabet?
Oh yeah. I wonder
Does
if he did.
does
I wonder if he
have
would
his
have.
whip with him right now? Because I
Yeah.
thought
I think he does.
Did he lose his
does.
whip during the tank scene?
No, I think you can see it. I think you can see
Yeah, I think
like
it's on him.
Yeah, I think it's on him.
So he did reclaim it after that whole whipping to stay on the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got it. I'm looking at it right now. He's got
Okay.
it. So how? I mean, like, I don't know. Is there? I mean, he kind of fudged booby trap number 1.
Yeah. Well, he physically got through it.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
guess
just
you're right. Yeah, he
wondering,
didn't.
what are you
Yeah.
like? If you were to, whip onto some vine or rope or ceiling apparatus, what's usually there for him, like would some blade come up and no,
But some
Well,
of
the,
the
knight,
things,
the knight would have taken his ticket and expelled him from the park.
yeah,
You're out
Yeah.
of here.
well, speaking of taking your ticket and expelling you from the park, one of the insidious things about this trap is the first trap. If you were Tom-sized, like, you would get decapitated no matter whether you knelt or not. And in this one, if you're shorter, you can't make it across anyway because
the Lord hates
the leg
tall
span
people.
is too bad. Yeah, and short people.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be
Tell me
just
about
right.
it.
Like, if your leg span is not long
You
enough,
know what?
you
You're
can't
right.
reach all
You
these
have to be
letters.
just right in the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah, you have to be this
Yeah.
tall to ride this ride, but not
chosen
any
size.
taller.
yeah.
Yeah,
Gotta be
It'll make you how
Goldilocks.
tall you need to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So when you looked at that, Pete, did it look like that eye was 8 feet from where Indy was standing?
Yeah, it's a long. Like,
It
how
looks-
does Elsa make it across later? She's not as tall.
And this is ignoring obviously where those poles are in that matte painting, because there's no way you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
make whatever leap that is to those letters.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let that matte painting go. That's I aggravates
No, you
me so
shouldn't.
much. I want to go in. That's my special edition. I just want to fix the matte painting in that scene.
It wouldn't take much. You're right. Just like a little brown
Yeah.
crayon.
And take
Fix it right up.
away, put an actual back wall or supports behind where he is instead of more tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a big tall ladder.
Damn it, I
And they collapse so easily because that last one he barely lands on the V.
Yeah.
And the one behind him like crumbles right as he steps. Just his
Oh,
heels
you know
touches
what?
it.
I'm looking at that. I thought it was. Is it the V? Oh, wait, I'm gonna watch it. I thought
That's
it was
the O.
Oh, is
yeah,
it
it's
the O?
the
Yeah,
O.
it's the O.
And what's
Yeah.
weird
Because
is when you watch
O.
it, he touches. I believe it's row, right? Is it row?
Yeah, it does look like a row.
And
yeah.
it's really strange. If you listen to it, he goes. He steps on the O, And he goes, "Oh, don't move."
I thought he said like, "Oh, don't."
He kind
Is it how
of
he-
Well, he says, "Oh," but then he kind of elongates it because he's going to.
Yeah.
no, but if you listen
oh.
closely, in there is a "Don't move."
And,
I
oh,
swear
what?
to God, it goes. He goes, "Oh, don't move." Look, you got to listen to the stuff with headphones.
I'm listening to it with headphones, and I've
He
never
does.
heard the sounds
He
that
totally
you're
Yeah.
making.
does. He does.
He goes,
say,
"Don't move."
Wait a minute.
Don't,
really
don't
weird.
move. That is weird.
Yeah.
Also, there's no way he's balancing with how his feet are planted
Right.
in that
right.
moment.
That's true.
Unless he's got the Michael Jackson shoes on.
Yeah, that whole scene is actually shot in reverse. But notice that brick that breaks is also a different consistency from the J at the beginning, which has some
Very.
weird dark inner, granular core.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that one does not pulverize.
So the J,
Right,
which is
it's
clearly
shoved.
intended to be the gotcha trick brick, breaks the easiest of all of them.
Well,
Like, this is where we'll get them. Well, that's what. And
if
also, I
somebody
like.
set it off recently, they might have just it hadn't had time to settle yet. Like they.
Well, that's why the caulk
Oh,
is
right.
there. It's been
Yeah.
replaced so often because that's the
Yeah.
gotcha brick.
Right.
Watch
Well,
out for
so
the
what
wet
would be
bricks.
Jehovah in Greek then? Pete, you
Uh,
studied Greek, didn't you?
Yeah, but I don't think they use Jehovah in Greek. It's a good question.
You don't have to answer that, Pete. It's not a fair question.
If everyone would like
That's
to
kind of
go
you
get
don't
a
have
drink
to
or
answer. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Pete.
come back to the podcast in a few minutes, we'll have an answer for you.
That's hilarious.
Because Jehovah's in Greek and Hebrew they used because since it was the proper name of God, it was never used in Hebrew, and then the
Right.
Greeks when they translated it, they didn't use it either. Like they just translated it as Lord. So I don't think it was never used in Greek.
Right.
So that was the trick.
Huh.
Like if you
Yeah.
were a Byzantine Christian, you'd just be like, "Oh, I can't get across."
Oh, I see.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, there's no. It doesn't
There's
say
no word
Lord
for
here.
yeah. It doesn't say
Yeah.
yeah.
Unless a helpful archaeologist goes in front of you, and then you can see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying really hard to find something else that was spelled like in the not Jehovah letters. Like,
Uh-huh.
C3PO
yeah.
rules or something, but I didn't find anything.
I thought I saw the word, but it wasn't. It
You
was,
always do.
It was an upsilon.
I think you saw what you wanted to see.
Yeah.
I think it was. It was a.
Not all letters spelled
something.
Jerry. Someday you'll understand that.
I don't think
Weird
you
way
will.
to do the booby trap there.
That was-
If you also notice in that matte shot that you love so much, when the debris falls, it like falls behind there's like a big crossbeam that runs across, and the debris falls behind it, and then it disappears.
Oh.
Like it doesn't come out the bottom.
Yeah. It's so
Real
aggravating.
good matte painting.
yeah.
I mean, that foreground debris looks really realistic, so I'll give them that.
Yeah. Might even be real.
And a lot of lighting in that dark pit.
Yeah. Very
Lit
nice
from the
lighting
fires
too.
of hell.
Like accent lighting.
Yeah.
Like they have several accent lights stationed around.
Just imagine a lot of tiny spotlights wielded by tarantulas. Oh, maybe they were glow-in-the-dark tarantulas. That was it.
Oh yeah, phosphorescent tarantulas.
Let's go back and redo that scene. This is a weird. This is when you get to the booby trap. That's just like, how clever can we be? Is that do you need to be clever in this way, in weird
not if-
pedantic language ways?
Not if
Gotcha.
you can. Yeah. Not if you can levitate.
I mean, saws are pretty straightforward. Like, we'll cut you. This one's like,
Right.
You know how to spell? Do you know the trick to spelling?
Do you think this like really pisses Indy off because it's the kind of thing his dad would have done to him as a kid?
Yes.
You know, like, oh, here,
Absolutely.
Mississippi's a hard word to spell. Spell
Yeah.
it.
But you know,
IT,
like I
dad.
keep saying, everything's a callback at this point. Like they're mirroring the early, like it's kind of like the Ring theory with the prequels. This is kind of like the Ring theory with Raiders, and now he's at the point where he's spelling on the chalkboard, and now he's spelling on the tile board.
Oh wow.
Well, it's weird because you mentioning the Greek aspect of it maybe should have been spelled that way. Isn't that how Henry has him count as a child?
Yeah.
it is.
When he
Yeah.
reprimands him? That would have been a better callback to have him also know Greek alphabet, because
Right.
obviously his father was drilling him on it.
Yeah.
That's true. And he
Yeah.
messes it up. That'd be
Yeah.
hilarious. I can totally see Indy's dad doing this. If you want dinner, you're gonna have to get across the.
Either that or
Want my
change
love.
it to count to 20 in Latin. Count if they just changed it to that, it would have been a nice call.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
named,
spelled
we named the
20 in
dog
Latin.
Jehovah with an I.
Yeah, you have to call him Jehovah with a J because you're not good enough.
I'm calling him Indiana, and you can't tell me any different. I hate you.
Indiana with a W.
Well, speaking of Windiana, anybody have anything else for minute 107?
I mean, it's just a, I'm not understanding what's really propelling. He doesn't seem propelled by whatever is happening with his father through this. I never get the sense that Indiana's state of mind is like, I got to get through to save my dad. It all just seems like, I got to get through because these are booby traps and I got to find the thing at the end.
Kinda, yeah.
I feel like that changes with the next one, but up until this point, I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
It just seems like genuine, it could be the traps in the first film in Raiders
Right.
of him
Right,
going
right.
through to find a relic, as opposed
Right.
to a ticking clock of his father dying from a gunshot wound in the other room, cradled in the warm bosom of Sala, as Marcus, I guess, counts his fingers.
I badly want these to be more spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, in nature. I just, or even just like some, Hercules, get the golden apple, or I don't know, just
Well,
something.
they are-
I don't like that they're, quote, man-made.
No, they're kind of like puzzles you would find on the back of a placemat at a restaurant, like as a kid.
Yeah.
It's like you have to. There's not. I mean, they're just kind of like little mind games. They're little mind puzzles. They're not, like you said, they're not spiritual. at all.
The weirdest thing is the first one is not a puzzle. There's no puzzle there. There isn't a
Well,
puzzle.
there's a puzzle. It's weird. It's only a puzzle if you have a clue to think
Yes,
about.
it's only
Yeah.
like
The whole
this
Penitent
one.
Man
I
thing.
understand. You're like, I have to spell something. I have to spell. I mean, they're all. So everybody has to read the Chronicles of Saint Anselm, and
Yeah,
I
guess
just,
so.
I did that. The first one bothers me. That's why I said there should be the little miniature golf placard with the clue,
Yeah.
Well,
and then
the
that
first
way
puzzle,
it's a clue.
the first puzzle could have been solved just by someone observing, sending a couple of
Yes.
sacrifices
Right.
in and going,
Yeah.
oh, there's the pattern. The same way you
Yeah.
would figure out a
Yeah.
game you're trying to get through.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a
Exactly.
pattern.
Yeah,
That's
I
that's
died
where the
3
blades
times, but now I
come.
know what to do.
Now I just
Well,
got
so
to
what-
kneel and not roll.
So why is
Yeah,
this like? Why are these different than the Temple of Doom? Closing trap room.
Because that made sense in a way. That made sense in like an Indiana Jones way, where you're in a place where evil things are happening and people, or even like in the Chachapoyan Temple, like something is being guarded. It kind of makes sense. But like, yeah, even when we heard about the booby traps for the first time, when they're like on the motorcycle and deciding to go to Berlin, it's like, really, booby traps? Like, did God leave booby traps?
I
Like,
mean,
who-
they're
this
not
isn't-
supposed
this
to
doesn't
be-
jibe.
Booby traps. Aren't they supposed to be a test?
Well,
They're-
Henry calls
they're
them
testing-
booby traps.
Yeah.
They do, but supposedly what the actual intention of whoever created these is there a faith test
Yeah, you tested someone's
Oh,
worthy.
Yeah, that's right.
to make
And-
it on. Here's what is your belief system?
Uh-huh.
Right then to how do you pray
Yeah.
to
Right.
make it through these traps
Yeah,
to
do
be
you speak
worthy
Latin?
to make it to the Grail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent point. And by calling them booby traps, shows that you don't have faith. If you call
but
them
Indy
like
doesn't have faith and he makes it through.
who? Well,
Indy doesn't have faith and he makes it through.
And
It
Henry
just-
does have
It's a,
faith,
it's a,
and he
it's a
doesn't.
logic
Well,
thing. It's all a thing to figure out.
but
Well,
what's strange is I agree with you. It's supposed to be sort of like, are you spiritually fit?
I think it's like you're mentally fit, and you've read enough about this religion that you get like, oh, a penitent
Well, yeah,
man would
so is it a
kneel,
difference
Jehovah's the name
between-
of God?
Between faith and having respect or curiosity about
Yeah.
these things, to where the scholarship of Henry Jones is what gets you through these traps. So having a respect of
Oh.
these things, of not being tripped up
Yeah.
by these things. So that's a different kind of faith test in, like, do you at least respect this this weird system we've set up to get in enough to research and understand and try and figure out how we've set this up and to get through.
So were there
Yeah.
like 40 knights, knights, who are these guys again? Knights Templar, whatever they are. I can't remember. Were there a whole bunch of them that just knew all this? They were familiar with the Chronicles of St. Ansem, or they're just like, all right, look, the first one we're going to set up, look, you just have to kneel and don't move forward when you do. The second one's a no-brainer. It's Jehovah. Just regular-ass Jehovah. Don't overthink it, And then the third one,
Yeah.
it looks kind of funky, but it's really right there. So
We found this really cool, naturally occurring or near enough
Yeah.
stone span.
Yeah.
Did they just tell everybody? Like in that
Well, I mean,
group?
if anyone needs to be reminded in that group, they just need to ask the Eternal Knight. Like, by the way, how did this
Yeah.
one work?
Yeah.
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 Because if
So there's a cheat sheet that's installed.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have to know. I mean, yeah, you just have somebody tell you, go, the first one you kneel, you'll hear it. The wind kind of comes through a little bit. Just kneel. You're like, oh, okay. But don't forget. No, I won't forget.
Well, that,
Yeah.
because how often are these things accessed?
Right.
Yeah. Is it every
And
week,
how
or
many
is it...
people how many, quote, good guys access them?
I mean, it
Like,
doesn't
just
seem like the
3?
knight has encountered anybody in a long time.
Yeah.
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 And he also might have a different definition of good guy than we do.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, he did fight in the Crusades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the problematic knight is...
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, that aspect of it, certainly it's interesting to see, again, comparing Donovan to Belloc, in that, it's not about any curiosity. Belloc is, in his own way, in that weird dark mirror version of Indiana Jones in Raiders, curious about these things and has studied these things and has a knowledge about the relics that they're hunting down, and seems to be every bit as capable, if not more so, than Indiana Jones in acquiring them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Donovan does not. So it, maybe one of the lessons of this film is, and he was snookered by having no scholarship about the Grail and being led to a false Grail.
Snookered. That's a great word.
Guess
like
what,
that.
Dusty? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Psych.
Well,
So maybe it's just condemning a lack of curiosity and just selfish greed is one of the
Right.
lessons to walk away from in this first draft of a film.
well, speaking of anachronistic endings, this damn machine, what are we doing with it still? This just in from Professor Christy Porter. How do Indy and Henry know that the name of God wouldn't be Yahweh, Elohim, Emmanuel, Jesus, Christ, Adonai? That's a good point.
Well, several of those are the same thing. But yeah, it could have been. That's that because in Greek it would have been Kyrios, and in Hebrew it would have been Adonai. Like it wouldn't have been because they never spoke. They would never spell or speak Yahweh.
Sure.
Like that.
So, but
that was
why
the
aren't they looking? I mean, why do they know that it's going to be Jehovah?
So in the
Why not-
time period that this would have been constructed, this temple,
Yeah, it was 1095.
and during the Crusades, you know, the Knights
Yeah.
Templar who would have been doing it is Jehovah with an I in their writings, how they were identifying the Lord.
See-
Is that the intention of
See,
this?
if we're talking about this is what's interesting. If we're talking about the Holy Grail, I would think it would be Jesus or Christ or Emmanuel or so. I mean,
But Indy's got an in with Yahweh. Like maybe this is tying it back to Yahweh and Raiders. Because Jehovah is just the
Sure.
Latinized version of Yahweh.
but again, what's so crazy is you need the clue, which isn't anywhere.
Well, it's supposed to be hidden. I mean, there's supposed to be things keeping people out. They don't want people to get through these unless they can.
Yeah, maybe there was a rogue Knights Templar who
Yeah.
went and disseminated, or
Yeah.
painted
See,
a
that's
painting that wound up in a yard sale.
That's
Yeah.
what's so weird. It's like, I mean, I feel like,
It
is-
doesn't
is
seem
there
like it was set up as a quest. It doesn't seem like this is a Cracker Jack prize. That if you
Right.
solve all the, this isn't, drink your Ovaltine for Little Orphan Annie and you figured it
Yeah.
out at the end. It
Crummy
seems like
commercial.
here's like, what you're not supposed to get a hold of this thing.
Uh-huh.
Right down to having decoys at the end if you make it that far.
Well, so let me ask you guys this: are the Chronicles of Saint Anselm like WikiLeaks? Just medieval, and there was a knight that was, one of them was like a Julian Assange or something, and he just leaked the clues.
Maybe it was a cheat sheet that
I
they
don't
wrote
know.
down
I
because
mean,
they were
I'm-
forgetting it. It's like, oh, I can't remember this. Like password.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's like
So maybe
there's
that,
two.
and then that leaked out unintentionally or passed through and it wound up in art. And maybe it took someone like a Henry Jones to take this stuff seriously, which even then, I mean, even his own son thought he was nuts
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
and ignored this scholarship. It's not like Indiana invested enough in his dad's scholarship to go, of amongst all the other crazy crap that I'm finding, I'll go look for the Grail for Dad just to spite him.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe if you count to 10 in Greek, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Old man.
Yeah, how about that? Think on that.
Yeah, it's 107.
On that note,
Yep.
Yeah, 107.
Well, as we're
Wrapped
thinking on that, Kin, would you like to tell people a little bit more about where they can hear more of you, some of your podcasts, or some of the projects you're working on?
Yeah, well, my main one is A Bit of a Chat, which is me having chats with people in podcast form. Usually runs a fair length of time because we talk about anything. And so people like Mel Brooks and John Cleese and Andy Richter and hundreds of others, tons of people. That's been out there. You can find all the stuff I do basically through kenplume.com. And there's a book called Go Team Venture, The Art and Making of the Venture Brothers, which I co-wrote with the show's creators, Jackson Public and Doc Hammer, which is coming out soonish or is already out by the time people listen to this, and they should pick it up.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Awesome. And if you'd like to have a bit of a chat with us, check out our Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and type in Indiana Jones Minute and the Listeners Crusade. Something like that.
you did it.
You sound like you're
Nailed it.
stepping on a J there, Pete.
I almost did, yeah.
Every other letter's a J.
Don't worry, the
And
matte
yeah.
painting will save you.
Yeah, I hope so. You prop up a log into there. And check us out there. And then check us out here tomorrow for minute 108 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
J.
Jones?
Yeah.